Commandancy of the Alamo, February 24th, 1836. William Travis. To the people of Texas and all Americans in the world, fellow citizens and compatriots, I am besieged by 1,000 or more of the Mexicans under Santa Anna. I have sustained a continual bombardment and cannonade for 24 hours and have not lost a man. The enemy has demanded a surrender at discretion. Otherwise, the garrison are to be put to the sword if the fort is taken. I have answered the demand with a cannon shot, and our flag still waves proudly from the walls. I shall never surrender or retreat. Then I call on you in the name of liberty, of patriotism, and everything dear to the American character, to come to our aid with all dispatch. The enemy is receiving reinforcements daily and will no doubt increase to 3,000 or 4,000 in 4 or 5 days. If this call is neglected, I am determined to sustain myself as long as possible and die like a soldier who never forgets what is due to his own honor and that of his country, victory or death. William Barrett Travis, Lieutenant Colonel, Commander. P.S. The Lord is on our side. When the enemy appeared in sight, we had not 3 bushels of corn. We have since found in deserted houses 80 or 90 bushels, and got into the walls 20 or 30 head of beeves. On March 3rd, Colonel Travis wrote, "A blood-red banner waves from the church at Bezar, and in the camp above us, in token that the war is one of vengeance against rebels. Their threats have had no influence on me or my men, but to make all fight with desperation and with that high-souled courage which characterizes the patriot who is willing to die in defense of his country's liberty and his own honor." From A School History of Texas, copyright 1912, by Barker, Potts, and Ramsdell, The Goliad Massacre.
Goliad Day, in honor of Colonel Fannin and his men who were massacred on March 27, 1836. Colonel Fannin, with 293 men, 7 had been killed at Coleto, 60 were wounded, had surrendered to Urrea's force of 1,200 to 1,300 on March 19, 1836, at the Battle of Coleto. The Americans say that terms of surrender were agreed upon by which they were allowed to keep all their personal property, but were to lay down their arms and return to Goliad as prisoners of war. Goliad Massacre. Upon their return to Goliad, the men were imprisoned, and the physicians of the Texans began to attend to the wounded. Before they were allowed to treat their own countrymen, however, they were compelled to dress the wounds of the Mexicans. On the 25th, Major Ward and his men were brought in as prisoners. They had gone to Victoria 2 days after the surrender of Fannin at the Coleto, and finding it in possession of General Urrea, had fired their last round of ammunition and then surrendered. On the 27th, all of the men who were able to walk, except about a dozen, were divided into 3 squads and marched out of town under guard. Some were told that they were going to Copano, others that they were to help the soldiers slaughter beeves. But after marching for 15 or 20 minutes in different directions, they were halted, and at the word of command, shot down by the soldiers in cold blood. Nearly all were killed at the first fire, and those who were not were chased like wild beasts and dispatched with bayonet or clubbed musket. Very few escaped. Afterward, the wounded were dragged from their beds and shot. This horrible massacre occurred on the Sunday before Easter, exactly 3 weeks after the fall of the Alamo. The bodies were piled in heaps, brush was thrown upon them, and they were partially burned. 3 months later, the Texas Army came that way and reverently buried the fragments that remained. From A School History of Texas, Barker, Potts, and Ramsdell, 1912.